Property. In the previous section, we learned that real estate is more than just land. It includes the natural elements of the earth and everything permanently affixed to it, as well as the rights of ownership that come with it. This next section expands on that foundation by exploring the meaning of property itself, the rights included within ownership, and how those rights can be used, divided, and transferred. Understanding property is crucial to real estate practice because every transaction, lease, mortgage, or title transfer is based on these ownership principles. Property, in its most basic sense, refers to something that is owned. If an individual owns an item, that item is their property. A car, for instance, is property only when someone claims legal ownership of it. If it is abandoned in the desert and no one claims it, it ceases to be property. The same principle applies on a larger scale. Planets, oceans, or unclaimed territories are not property because no one holds ownership rights over them. Therefore, ownership defines property. Without ownership, there can be no property. However, property is not just the physical item itself. It also represents a legal relationship between the owner and the item, known as the bundle of rights. This concept defines what an owner can legally do with their property. When Bill Brown buys a car, he doesn't just own the metal and wheels, he owns a legal set of rights associated with that car, including the right to use it, sell it, lease it, mortgage it, or prevent others from using it. These rights form the cornerstone of property law and apply to both personal property, like cars or jewelry, and real property, like homes or land. The bundle of rights in real estate includes 5 fundamental ownership privileges: the right of possession, control, exclusion, enjoyment, and disposition. The right of possession grants the owner the ability to occupy and use the property. In real estate, possession means holding the title to the property. For example, when a buyer closes on a home and receives the deed, they now legally own and can occupy that property. However, ownership is not absolute. Failure to pay property taxes, association dues, or a mortgage can lead to loss of possession through foreclosure or tax liens. The right of control allows owners to determine how their property is used and to make physical changes or improvements as long as they comply with laws and restrictions. For example, a homeowner may choose to add a swimming pool, build a garage, or plant a garden, provided local zoning laws or homeowner association covenants do not prohibit such actions. This right empowers owners, but also reminds them that their control is not limitless. Community rules and safety regulations always take precedence. The right of exclusion allows owners to prevent others from entering or using their property. This right is highly protected under law. No one may enter a property without permission, except under legal authority, such as law enforcement with a warrant. However, certain easements may allow utility companies access to maintain lines or pipelines. These limited exceptions ensure that property rights coexist with community needs. The right of enjoyment ensures that the owner can use the property in any lawful manner that brings satisfaction or benefit. For instance, a family may host a barbecue in their backyard or enjoy the scenic views from their property. However, enjoyment must not violate community standards or other people's rights. For example, excessive noise or illegal activities would not be protected under this right. The right of disposition gives the owner the freedom to transfer ownership, whether by selling, renting, gifting, or bequeathing the property. A homeowner can sell their house, lease it to a tenant, or include it in a will for their heirs. Yet financial obligations such as mortgages or tax liens must be satisfied before full disposition can occur. Together, these rights make up the foundation of ownership. However, property can be divided into 2 main legal classifications: real property and personal property. Real property refers to land and everything permanently attached to it, including buildings and fixtures, along with the bundle of rights associated with ownership. Personal property, often referred to as chattel, includes all movable items such as furniture, vehicles, or jewelry. For instance, a built-in oven is real property, while a removable microwave is personal property. Property can also be classified as tangible or intangible. Tangible property is something that has a physical form, something you can touch, see, or hold, like land, a car, or artwork. Intangible property lacks a physical form and represents ownership in a non-physical asset, such as a patent, a copyright, or a stock certificate. Real estate is always tangible because it exists physically, but personal property can be either tangible or intangible. For example, a boat and a diamond ring are tangible personal property, while stocks and trademarks are intangible. Ownership of property, whether real or personal, tangible or intangible, involves a complex web of legal relationships, responsibilities, and rights. Contract, tort, and property laws often overlap to resolve disputes involving property rights or ownership. For example, a tenant may sign a contract to rent a property, but if the landlord fails to provide a habitable space, both contract and property laws determine the remedies. Real property rights and land interests. The bundle of rights also extends to specific parts of the property: the surface, the air above, and the subsurface below. Each of these can be owned, leased, or sold separately. Surface rights include everything on the land's surface, such as crops, trees, and buildings. Air rights apply to the space above the land and can be sold or leased, especially in dense urban environments like New York or Chicago, where developers purchase the right to build vertically. Subsurface rights refer to ownership of materials beneath the surface, including oil, gas, minerals, and groundwater. These can also be sold or leased separately from surface rights. For instance, a landowner in Texas may lease subsurface rights to an energy company for oil extraction while retaining ownership of the surface land. Review summary. Property is not just about physical ownership. It represents a relationship between an individual and a set of rights that accompany that ownership. These rights include possession, control, exclusion, enjoyment, and disposition, all of which define how an owner can use, transfer, or protect their property. The law recognizes both real and personal property, tangible and intangible forms, and divides ownership into separate interests like surface, air, and subsurface rights. Together, these principles create the foundation for every real estate transaction, defining what it truly means to own property. Discussion. What is the bundle of rights in property ownership? Answer. It is the collection of legal rights that come with owning property, including the rights of possession, control, exclusion, enjoyment, and disposition. How does tangible property differ from intangible property? Answer. Tangible property can be physically touched or seen, such as land or a car, while intangible property represents ownership of a non-physical asset, such as a stock or patent. Why can air and subsurface rights be sold separately from surface rights? Answer. Each represents a distinct interest in the property that can be legally divided, transferred, or leased independently to serve specific economic or development purposes. What limits an owner's right of control? Answer. Local zoning laws, covenants, and community restrictions can limit how a property is used or altered. Closing remarks. Understanding property ownership is central to every aspect of real estate practice. The bundle of rights gives meaning to ownership, while classifications such as real versus personal and tangible versus intangible help define how property is transferred and taxed. By mastering these concepts, real estate professionals gain the clarity needed to navigate contracts, titles, and disputes with confidence. Every transaction begins and ends with an understanding of what is owned, who owns it, and what rights accompany that ownership, a foundation that supports the entire real estate industry.